So about a month ago, I started a bolt-action rifle build because I wanted to have a dedicated long-distance gun. Before, I was using my M4A1 clone for that, but I guess I always felt like that was supposed to be more of a shorter distance, medium distance, kind of 100-yard and in kind of gun. And the bolt-action rifle is always the way, in my heart, I knew I would go. And so I did all the research and kind of, all that good stuff about a month ago. All the parts showed up at my door and I put that all together already just this past weekend. So now I'm going to show you kind of what that looks like and how I went about putting it together. One thing that I did realize when I finally had all these goodies to assemble is that I didn't actually have a vise or any kind of proper way to make sure that my gun was level when I put the scope on. And so I had to improvise and use this crappy little Costco box that you get at the checkout to prop my rifle up so I could, install the scope. So you're going to see that, it is what it is, but hey, as long as it shoots straight in the end, right? And so this is actually just a Remington 700 stock from the factory, but then I swapped out the barrel and then I added, a different stock, the McMillan stock, and I put on some other, parts here, of course. But one of the most important parts of this build is the scope. So as I mentioned before, this is an MPVO that used to sit on my M4A1, but this is the primary arms 3 to 18 by 44 first focal plane scope. Comes with the Athena mil-dot reticle, and I've used this for, had maybe about 400 or 500 rounds downrange with it. So I'm definitely getting more used to it, and from what I, know so far with it, I like it a lot. Very crisp, very fine reticle, good adjustment turrets and all that kind of good stuff. The construction feels great, especially at the price point which I got it, which was about $800. So it's been a great scope so far. Mind you, because I only put this bolt-action rifle together, this past weekend, I haven't actually shot this yet. So I have no rounds downrange, so this really is just kind of me sharing my my items that I put on the gun. I don't have any kind of range report or trigger time behind this gun yet, so just keep that in mind. This primary arm scope is sitting on 2 loophole scope rings, and then also I use the AEG, I think it is, scope base. It's just a Picatinny, scope base that I put on here. And so I tried to make the scope overall center over the base and over the action, the Remington action. But I did move the scope back just a little bit to make sure that it was good with my eye relief. I basically just mounted it in the scope, but not so, I didn't torque down the screws so much so I could still kind of adjust it and kind of, play with the eye relief. And so I landed on this final setup, at least for now, but it seems to work well. For me, I'm probably not going to shoot this gun beyond 500 or 600 yards ever. So for this magnification, for what it is, I think this is plenty. This is great for me, and if it turns out that I somehow get, to shoot at farther distances, I'll figure out that problem or figure that out later. Right now, the scope is everything I need and more, and so it's been great. I do need to sight it in, though. I haven't actually shot it, as I just mentioned, on the Remington 700, so we will see how that goes, but it should be fun. Now, I just mentioned the scope rings. Again, those are from Loophole, and so they hold down fine. Again, I haven't actually shot the gun yet, so we'll see. But I followed all the torque specs and stuff, so it should be good. These are the medium height rings, so I think it's like just under about an inch from the base of the scope to the center line, which is where my my reticle would be. It's a touch higher than I would like it to be, but if I go any lower, then my bolt handle I don't think it'll clear the scope. I think it'll actually hit, because as you can see here, there's barely enough clearance as it is, so I don't think I want to go any lower. Now, on the other hand, what I could do is I could get, like a cheek riser or something to, make the comb a little higher, because on this stock it is pretty short, but I'll leave it for now. When I aim down my sights right now, it's fine. So I'll just practice with it and see how it goes. I feel pretty good about having a consistent cheek weld, and the eye relief is always good. It feels like a very natural, intuitive way that I'm aiming, so I don't see any issues, but I have noticed I am not as, my face isn't as grounded or planted into the comb of the stock on this gun, like on the butt stock on my AR-15s. But again, let's just see how it plays out. Let's hit the range first before we start complaining or buying other parts to see if I need to fix a problem that doesn't exist. Now, moving along to the barrel. This is not the stock barrel that I had on here. Originally, this was a 16.5 inch. It was the Remington SPS Tactical, and it was a threaded barrel, chambered in 308. I ditched that, and instead I put on what's here now. It's a Bartlein 1-in-10 twist, still chambered in 308, and it was a 27-inch barrel blank. I had it cut down by Alamo Precision, and then they also crowned it and then chambered or threaded it as well. So it's about 25 inches at the end of the day. And it's an M24 straight tapered contour. And I think it looks great. I love the heavy barrel, the contour, the profile looks amazing. I know there are practical purposes to having the barrel be this heavy, but it just looks really sexy. I think it's awesome, and it's Cerakoted in graphite black. I do wish, just this is more of a personal preference, I didn't realize it would be laser engraved with a logo. I would prefer not to have that, but if you look at the craftsmanship of it, pretty damn good. But that's like not really that big of a deal, but yeah, that's the barrel that we have on here. It's the Bartlein 1 in 10 twist, 27-inch, chambered in 308. Now, as for the stock, another signature look of the rifle. So I went with the McMillan HTG stock in olive jab or whatever. It's molded in, so the color is injected into the actual stock. It's not just painted on. Really classic look. It's definitely not the most modern thing out there. I know I can get something that's a little more ergonomic with the angle of the grip. I could have an adjustable comb or whatever. But I purposely wanted this look. I wanted that kind of old school, kind of off the rack look, hence the olive drab, and that's what was in stock. And I think it looks great. Very happy with it. The comb being low, we kind of talked about that already. It's not the perfect cheek weld on there, but I think it's fine for now. I'll go to the range first and let's see if it's really an issue, but I doubt it will be. One thing I did notice about the stock is that when I bought it, it said it was drop-in ready. And so this actually transitions nicely to the next section of the gun, which is the bottom metal. So the bottom metal was supposed to be drop-in ready for the stock. And, you know, when I tried to do that, there were actually fitment issues. Basically, the McMillan stock was not sanded down on the inside enough for the bottom metal to just drop in and seat properly. It was sticking out a lot. And I kind of mentioned this in my last video. And so if I remember correctly from that, month ago or whatever, I was kind of going back and forth between whether I wanted to have, a gunsmith do it to, make sure it was done well, or if I wanted to give it, take a crack at it myself. And so with this factory bottom metal, I actually decided, screw it. I'll just give it a try. I'll try to do it myself. And so I sanded down the inside, and then I was able to make the bottom metal fit. Now, this may not sound like much, but to a dude like me, I don't really do a lot of gunsmithing stuff. I've built ARs before, but, for some reason, I was just, more nervous to do it on this bolt-action rifle. I guess because I had spent a lot on the stock, and, it's just a new process for me versus, AR-15s. But I gave it a try, and everything worked. I was able to sand down the inside of the stock, and it fit. But then what would happen is that the action screws were too long, and there was space in between, the bottom metal and actually contacting the stock and the rear action screw. So I had to get some washers as well, some spacers to make sure it would fit and that the bottom metal wouldn't flex. But that meant the screw was too long as well, so I had to shave that down too. And now everything is nice and flush, everything fits just fine. Why do you care and why am I telling you about this? Well, I guess I'm getting at a term that I've used a few times in my videos, pride of ownership. I was originally hesitant to kind of do this kind of work because, as I just mentioned, it was just not something I was familiar with. But I did it, and now the gun's great, and so I feel like it's that much more of mine because I put in the effort. I decided to do something to make it work, and I ended up probably spending $200 less than I would have just by doing this on my own. So pride of ownership, gun feels like it's more of mine because I was able to do some mini gunsmithing, and so that's pretty cool. But this is a long-winded way in the bottom metal section of this video to say that it is just a stock bottom metal that came with Remington 700. Now for the sling, we went with the Turner all-weather sling. It's made out of biothane, and I went with their dark brown one. It wasn't like a walnut or anything, it was just brown or whatever. And so again, I haven't really used this, but it looks great. Feels very thick and durable, which is good. And I think I have the sling setup done correctly. I'm still kind of figuring that out, but watched a few videos, looked at a few articles, and it looks good. And so that's what I'm using here. And then I have those attached to the stock with some Uncle Mike's QD sling swivels. And so again, want to keep it in line with the kind of the old school off the rack look, hence why I went with this kind of more muted color. I feel like now this is becoming more of a fashion kind of gun than it is an actual shooting, practical gun with me talking about this. But hey, it's gotta look good too, right? And I think it does, and so we went with this. One thing I do want to get better with the sling too is, well, obviously I bought it so I can carry it around, but I know, especially with this kind of sling too, I can use it to become, more stable in my shooting. That's a whole nother technique that I've never really done too much with, because all my slings on my AR-15s and just the distances I shot with, I didn't really need to brace more than just conventional shooting positions. But I know with slings, especially on, longer distance, that's also what they're meant for. They're not just for carrying. So that'll be a pretty cool thing to learn, as I keep shooting this gun too. As for the trigger and the safety, I just kept it standard with a Timney trigger. I know those are not considered to be the most popular, and I can do like a trigger tech or something else. And yeah, probably in the end, I will eventually get those. But for now, since I haven't even shot the gun and, I need to practice on it first, I'm going to focus on doing that. And then in the future, if I really want to, I can swap out the trigger. But for me now, I know what matters most is just practicing with it first. And then I can kind of, do the whole, upgrade thing later. So next steps really are just to go to the range and start shooting. I do need to buy some 308. I'm just going to stick with FMJ for now. Nothing crazy. I'll do match loads and all that, eventually. But for now, I know that what I need is just some practice. And so hopefully I can go next week. I actually have to prepare because I'm going to be traveling abroad for the next couple of weeks. And then, so I'll be doing that. So also another heads up is that I won't be uploading for about 2 or 3 weeks again until I come back. And when I do, that will be more of a travel video. Yay. So that'll be a lot of fun, but just, I guess, like a heads up. But yeah, so anyway, that's an update on me. That's an update on the gun. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions. Catch you guys in the next one. See you later.